Hey there blockheads, Taylor Martin from Pewaukee Lake Sailing School. We're here today next to this overturned 420. We're going to take a look at some of the repairs that need to be done on the bottom of this hull and the dagger board. But we're going to start first with Gelcoat and kind of the Gelcoat repairs that need to be done with this boat. So Gelcoat is the part of the boat that we actually all see. It's this white or colored outer coating of the fiberglass. And the way that I think about it is the gel coat is like the candy coating on an M&M, where inside the M&M you have the chocolate, which is the fiberglass that actually gives the boat structure. Then you have this outside coating on the M&M, which is the gel coat. Now, gel coat itself isn't actually structural in any way. It just provides this protective layer for the fiberglass. And so what tends to happen is over time, or with collisions or impacts to the fiberglass, the gel coat can crack. And the reason the gel coat cracks is because fiberglass is a little bit flexible, and even in boats that are built very rigidly, especially over time, or in big waves, any conditions where the hull is under a lot of stress, the fiberglass tends to flex, and because the gel coat isn't flexible, it tends to crack. So when we're looking at these these gel coat repairs, there are really two major types of gel coat repairs. One is this cracking that appears because of fatigue in the hull, because it's old, or because the hull is flexing a little bit but not actually broken. The other one is where you know there was an impact, or you know there was a collision, and there is underlying fiberglass damage. This fiberglass is kind of flexed beyond its point where it's meant to flex, and the gel coat is damaged. So before you assess any of this spider cracking on this gel coat repair, you have to make sure that the integrity of the fiberglass is still good to repair over. Otherwise, if that fiberglass needs to be repaired, that's what you have to do first. The gel coat is just going to keep cracking if you don't. So we'll take a look at two different repairs here. One is where the fiberglass is exposed and we need to do a gel coat repair to this boat. And the other one is where we just kind of have some fatigue cracking, and we'll talk about kind of varying degrees of that fatigue and what we need to assess immediately and what we kind of need to keep an eye on to make sure that it doesn't get any worse. All right, blockhead, so we're looking a little bit closer in here at some of this spider cracking. And this first set of spider cracks is just from fatigue, from the general flex in the hull here. And we've got a few of these that really aren't that bad. They're not cracked all the way through the gel coat. They're mainly just cosmetic. And as we move along here, we can see that they begin to get a little bit worse. And that's because we're moving into a wider area of unsupported glass that's a little bit more flexible. And so we have a little bit more cracking. Now this is cracking that if you have the time and the gel coat on hand, it could be worth repairing because some of this is cracked all the way through the gel coat. And then you have fiberglass exposed to the elements that can get damaged over time. And then as we move over here, we have more serious gel coat cracking where the fiberglass is actually exposed. And this is a repair that we're actually going to take care of now because it's exposed fiberglass, and so it's one that needs to be done. It's a little bit more urgent. And it's also a smaller area here, whereas that bigger area was a little bit longer of a repair. This one is a simpler, quicker repair that is an urgent one. We're here now to get down into the nitty-gritty of actually doing this repair that we talked about earlier. We're taking the worst of our gel coat cracking, the one that was all the way through to the fiberglass, and we're going to repair it here. This is a pretty small area here, and so we've got to take all of this down to the fiberglass, or at least down far enough that this waxy coat, the shiny coat of gel coat, is gone. And we have enough space to put new gel coat on and still keep it flush. So before we do that, we're going to talk a little bit about what I'm wearing and the tools that I'm using. I've got a full Tyvek suit on so that all of this dust from the gel coat and fiberglass doesn't get on me. And then I've got my respirator so that none of it gets inside of me, safety glasses, and hearing protection. Now the tool that we're going to be using is just a handheld angle grinder with a flap disc on it. And what we're going to be doing here is kind of the roughing up of this area. We've got to take gentle passes to take this down to the fiberglass, get this bad gel coat off. And we're really going to make sure that it's concentrated in this area. And so what you can do is you can tape off how much you need to grind out. We can do that before we get grinding. And then what we'll do is we'll just take some gentle passes to get all of the cracked gel coat off of there and get it down far enough that we can add more gel coat on top. Talking a little bit more about this shop space that we're in. And even though we all wear, when we're doing this sort of fiberglass work, our respirators and all our personal protective equipment, we also have, fortunately in this space, a lot of good ventilation. We have a good extraction fan here, which goes up to ventilation up top that vents this out and filters out the particulates. And that really ensures that the air in this space stays clean enough for us to breathe even when we're not wearing these respirators, so that it doesn't get too stagnant in here. This isn't a sort of repair that you would want to try without the right sort of ventilation in place. One of the big things that we want to talk about before tackling any projects like this is making sure that you or the people around you are prepared to do this work. So even though all of you guys are responsible for your boats and for taking care of your boats, you might not necessarily be the ones responsible for doing this sort of fiberglass work. So before any time you grind fiberglass or are applying gel coat, you want to make sure that either the person you're doing it with or the person doing the repair is a qualified fiberglass technician. And if you're really raring to go on doing projects like this yourself, make sure that you find somebody who's willing to guide you through that process, somebody qualified professional to guide you through this process. And if you're doing some sort of thing like this at home where you have somebody guiding you through this process and you don't have kind of industrial ventilation like we fortunately do in this workshop here, you really want to make sure that you have enough ventilation in your garage or in your driveway or wherever you're doing this, through box fans, through extractor fans that are used that you can get at any of the big box stores. And you want to make sure that the people around you as well, so not just in your immediate area, so you know, if you're in a neighborhood, all of your neighbors, anybody around you, because this fiberglass stuff, if it's not properly ventilated, can get everywhere. And so you got a lot of concerns if you were trying to tackle this yourself with a professional, to making sure that your space is ventilated and contained enough that you're actually able to try these projects. So we're going to get started here. Good. All right, so we're still working with our gel coat here. We're going to go ahead and put the first coat on this repair that we started earlier where we ground down. I just finished wiping it down. We don't have a lot of gel coat left, but that's perfect because we don't want to do one thick coat. We'll do a couple of thinner coats. All right, so we've got one coat on here. So you can see that I've gone a little bit beyond the repair. Where I've taped is I've taped around the area that I ground down. And so this gel coat should only be on areas that are at least touched with the sander to get this first top waxy coat off. And what I've used here is actually an old foam brush. And foam brushes are a great way to apply gel coat because they tend to do a pretty even coat, and you can actually get 2 lives out of them, one with the foam and then one with these bones of the scraper. And that's a great way to get this kind of initial coat on here. So like our other one, we'll wait a minute for this to gel, and then we'll go ahead and pull off the tape at least where the gel coat is touching. And if we wanted to leave the tape on for a next coat, we can wipe off this excess here so that it doesn't gel onto the tape.